Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. On Saturday, March 23rd, Prime Minister Narendra Modi concluded a very meaningful 24-hour visit to Bhutan that signaled deepening of the traditional bond of friendship between the two neighbors. It is rare for an Indian Prime Minister to undertake a foreign visit after parliamentary elections are announced, and Mr. Modi was already in the middle of poll campaigning across the country. But when it is Bhutan calling, things become different. In 2014, when he became Prime Minister for the first time, Bhutan was Mr. Modi's first foreign visit. He visited the nation again in 2018. Now, as he is about to complete his second term and a decade as Prime Minister and is seeking re-election, Mr. Modi accepted King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk's invitation and landed in Bhutan to a rousing reception. Prime Minister Modi assured Bhutan's top leadership that India will stand with the Himalayan nation in fulfilling its development goals and that the extraordinary bilateral ties the two nations have would create opportunities for greater cooperation in infrastructure, connectivity, trade, energy, and space sectors. Prime Minister Modi announced India's commitment to providing 10,000 crore in support to Bhutan over the next 5 years. For Bhutan's 12th five-year plan, India had allocated rupees 5,000 crore. Assistance and commitments aside, there have been many firsts during this visit of Prime Minister Modi to Bhutan. Mr. Modi is the first foreign dignitary to have been conferred Bhutan's highest award, Order of the Druk Gyalpo. Besides, he has been the only Indian Prime Minister to have been hosted by the King and the Queen of Bhutan at their official abode, the Lingana Palace, for a private dinner. And breaking protocol, His Majesty the King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk was at the Paro airport to see off Prime Minister Modi. These are unmissable signs of the bond of friendship between the two nations. And one cannot miss the fact that Prime Minister Modi's visit came at a time when Bhutan is in talks with China to resolve the tricky boundary dispute, one disputed stretch being in the Doklam area, something India is wary of and is keeping a close watch. To discuss the India-Bhutan relations following Prime Minister Modi's visit and high-level exchanges between the two neighbors, I am joined from Thimphu by Dasho Kinle Dorji, well-known commentator, former editor of Kwensel, Bhutan's national newspaper, and former Secretary Information of the Government of Bhutan. From Galiphu, I am joined by Daso Charing Wangda, Vice President of the Bhutan-India Friendship Association, and also from Thimphu, I am joined by Mr. Tenzing Lamsang, editor of the Bhutanese. Joining me from New Delhi is Lieutenant General retired Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry in the Indian Army and a well-known defense analyst. And also with me in New Delhi is well-known global affairs expert Dr. Swaran Singh, Professor for Diplomacy and Disarmament at the Center for International Politics at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Gentlemen, welcome to this special debate on India-Bhutan relations following Prime Minister Modi's highly successful two-day visit to the Himalayan nation. But before we begin the discussions, as I said, there have been many firsts during this visit to Bhutan, one of them being an invitation to Prime Minister Modi by His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen to their official abode, that is the Lingana Palace. Now, what happened at Lingana Palace? Let's take a quick look. Well, these are pictures. These are pictures from inside Lingana Palace put out today by India's national broadcaster Doordarshan, where we realized that during that private dinner at Lingana Palace, the king, queen and their entire family, the little princess and the princess, are present with Modi. It was quite an informal setting, and it was quite amazing to see Prime Minister Modi chatting with the little prince there, and His Majesty and Her Majesty were both present during that meeting, and the little princes were with a football in hand, and one of them was holding what looked like a cricket bat. Whether they were gifts by Prime Minister Modi, we are not clear, but these are pictures that explains a lot about the friendly nature of this, about the absolutely cordial and informal hour or two that the Prime Minister Modi spent during the private dinner at Lingana Palace. Absolutely exclusive pictures there by India's national broadcaster. Now, let me go first to Dasho Kinle Dorji, commentator, well-known commentator and editor, former editor of Queensel, Bhutan's national newspaper. Mr. Kinle Dorji, welcome to this show. You are joining me from Bhutan. Thanks for your time. These pictures of the Linkana Palace, where the king, the queen, their children were in a very, very informal setting with Prime Minister Modi. We all know what happened. We have seen the press statements by both countries. We know most of it, the MOUs and all. But we have seen these pictures, at least I have seen these pictures for the first time today. What does it indicate, Mr. Kinle Dorji? Kinle, can you hear me?
Okay. No, you're breaking up. Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Now I can.
Yeah, I was talking about this pictures at the Linkana Palace where the king, queen and the children were in a very, very informal thing with Prime Minister Modi. I was asking you, what does this indicate?
Okay. To me, my immediate reaction is this is more than a bilateral visit, more than a summit level visit. This looked like a family visit, It looked like a, dear old uncle arriving. Sorry, dear uncle arriving to meet the family. And I think that is the sense we got basically during this 2-day visit, with the Prime Minister Modi interacting, and very comfortable. The body language is very relaxed, and his speech was wonderful, very inspiring. So I think it left us all with a very, very good feeling.
Absolutely. I will take opening remarks from all my panelists before taking the discussion forward. Let me go to Galifu, where I am joined by Ms. Dasho Cheringwangda, the Vice President of the Bhutan-India Friendship Association, a very respectable voice. And Dasho Wangda knows almost everybody in this part of the world. Dasho Wangda, welcome. What do you think of this visit? Right from the time the Prime Minister got down from his plane at Paro on Friday, the warm embrace between Prime Minister Modi and your Prime Minister, Mr. Charing Tobgay, to Bhutanese people, lining up the entire 50-kilometer stretch from Paro to Thimphu, and then whatever followed, the dinner at Linkana Palace. What do you think of it?
Good evening.
Good evening.
To all the panelists from Bhutan and India, it is a great honor, Wasbir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, I do not really want to say much because Bhutan and India relations has been always very, very high throughout the last 60 years. For me, professionally looking, no doubt we had the most wonderful, momentous, historic visit of Prime Minister Modi in Thimphu. And you know how popular, how well-liked your Prime Minister Modi is in the world today. There is absolutely no doubt that he's such a charismatic person and the Prime Minister. And therefore, with all his charisma and with his all that, leadership quality, friendliness, he made so much difference. By coming to Bhutan, he was able to speak to so many of us in our Royal Secretariat, to the thousands and thousands of people. But I must also tell you that those lovely words, all full of praises, that His Majesty, the King of Bhutan, had for Prime Minister Modi before he awarded this higher order of Druk Gyalpo. And therefore, I was there to witness this visit. I was there to see the cultural show. I was there to witness the giving of this award. And I have no words to describe Wasbir. I have no words. That
Right.
is all I can say. Thank you.
Right. Before coming to the panelists from home, let me go to Mr. Tenzing Lamsang, editor, the Bhutanese. Let me tell you, viewers, I have got two celebrated commentators from Bhutan on my show. Both Kinle Dorji, a good friend of mine, and Mr. Tenzing Lamsang are celebrated journalists in the first place. They are highly regarded in the Bhutan and outside. Now, let me go to you, Mr. Tenzing Lamsang, the editor of the Bhutanese. Same question to you. What are your first impressions about this visit, Tenzing?
I think it was a very good, warm, and successful visit. And I think the success of any visit is judged by the outcomes and the results of the visit. And in that sense, you could see that there were several important 7 MOUs signed and 2 agreements, including a very important energy uh, kind of joint statement between the two countries. And do remember that the neighborhood first policy started with Bhutan in 2014, where Prime Minister
Right.
Narendra Modi made his first visit here. And in fact, in the subsequent years since then, we've seen India's re-emphasis or giving of importance to the neighborhood and its success, be it in Sri Lanka or Nepal or Bangladesh and Bhutan, of course, in terms of getting the region together and a better connectivity and all of that. So I think in the larger picture and in Bhutan itself, the visit was a big success. And I was there with Dashut Sri Wanda also when Prime Minister Modi received the award and gave a warm speech towards Bhutanese. So it was well liked, and though he gave his speech in Hindi, the Bhutanese audience clapped several times because I think first of all, the Bhutanese people can understand a degree of Hindi because of Bollywood, and at the same time,
Yeah.
I think the words he conveyed, the warmth he conveyed, was well received, and of course, His Majesty coming to see off Prime Minister Modi at the airport, a rare honor. That itself sums up the visit, I feel.
Let me turn to New Delhi, where I am joined by two very eminent panelists. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, first to you, General. The 7 memorandums have been signed, 13 planned allocation has been exactly doubled. It was 5,000 crore for the 12th plan, India's assistance, and now for the 13th plan, it is 10,000 crore. But it's not about money. It's not about the allocation, General. I'm sure you will agree with me. How do you see this visit? Because Bhutan has been more than a traditional ally for India, and Bhutan at this point in time is engaged in a border negotiations with China, with which India has a very long-standing border dispute. Strategically, how do you see this visit?
Thank you, Wasbir. At the very outset, I must say the warmth that India enjoys with Bhutan, just not now, for the last about over 50 years, and with the Wangchuk family in particular. We have our own training team in Bhutan. I have, while I was posted as instructor at the National Defense Academy, we do have cadets from Bhutan being trained along with us. So there is a tremendous amount of good relationship and a lot of love and warmth. The very fact that the Prime Minister in 2014 started off with a visit to Bhutan, and now, after having won the 2 terms and the 3rd term before it starts, he again had gone and visited Bhutan, is indicative that how much Bhutan occupies that space. You can see the love and affection being showered by him like a grandfather. You can see, even in the earlier cases, when Mrs. Shushma Swaraj, whenever she would visit them, the kind of love and affection she would shower over them. So there is tremendous amount. The gross national happiness of Bhutan lies in the peace and prosperity that prevails between Bhutan and India. Obviously, the China factor now. The China factor has been a real big thing because China has been wanting to establish a diplomatic mission in Bhutan. And for that, it insists and coerces Bhutan that if it wants to settle the border dispute, irrespective of where those three pockets that they have, the only way is to allow China to establish a diplomatic mission and have a diplomatic relationship with Bhutan. So that's where China goes all about. Notwithstanding the tourism part, also, was that before just about 2 years back, China did send about 80 odd thousand high-end tourists. So China does want to weaponize even tourism from that point of view. So there's a lot of love and affection that I have seen even during my visits, because having done the NDC after the king did it in India, king is, of course, studied abroad in America.
Right.
But he came here for a 1-year course. So there's a good relationship that exists between Bhutan and India, and the further cementing and increasing the gross national happiness is, I think, a very essential factor, and we see everything happening on the right path.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Swaran Singh, we have seen in the last couple of months, I am not going farther back, in the last couple of months, we have seen His Majesty the King visiting India at least two times. He met the Prime Minister of India within less than a year. And last was, of course, in the month of November when he paid a visit to Assam. It was also historic because it was for the first time that a Bhutanese monarch had visited Assam that shares a long border with Bhutan, and there are roads crisscrossing between India and Bhutan. Now, he spent time, he met the Chief Minister of Assam, and where he told our Chief Minister, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma, that we are family, meaning Bhutan and Assam are family. Then he went to New Delhi, where he met the Prime Minister Modi for the second time in less than a year. What does this high-level contacts, it's not just between a Prime Minister to Prime Minister, but it is between the Prime Minister and the King of Bhutan. How do you look at it?
Wasbir, very clearly, if you notice the way Prime Minister Modi conducts diplomacy, it's always personal and informal building of warmth and friendship, which is the most important. So his personal attention to detail, his personal attention to not just official, but personal, cultural, social linkages to be underlined and built has always been visible. Now, as you spoke of King Wangchuk's visits to India recently and visit to Assam, very clearly for Bhutan, Assam is the most important first link when it wants to link with India. And since India has now begun to talk of recalibrating the whole developmental partnership with Bhutan, for example, internally participating in the development of infrastructure in Bhutan, the way the Women and Children's Hospital was inaugurated, the way India is involved in Gelfu Mindful City now. At second level, the link of rail, road, energy grid, and that is where Assam becomes the first stop for engaging with India or India engaging with Bhutan. And at third level is strategic and security, where again, building cooperation in terms of mutual and equal security is something which is being underlined. So the immediate connect for Bhutan clearly is Assam and India's northeast region. And likewise for India also, this is the most important region that determines how India engages Bhutan. And the whole conversation of China persisting, asking for swap of the Doklam, the Western territory, to be swapped with territories that China promises to give on north and east, has direct influence on India. And that is why very quickly, if you notice, Foreign Minister Jaishankar has been saying it repeatedly that perhaps India for a long time invested into relationship with Beijing, thinking that bridge building with Beijing is going to resolve and ensure peace and stability in the neighborhood.
Right.
But now we need to look at building developmental partnership in a very different way, deepen it, and also bring in a whole new set of engagement in terms of grid building, in terms of infrastructure building. So India's infrastructure is regional in that outlook, and that is where Assam's linkages with Bhutan and Northeast India's linkages with Bhutan become particularly significant.
Right.
The kind of infrastructure that we are building in Northeast clearly has regular energy, rail, road linkages, and that is
Yes.
there among various MOUs signed. There's also a MOU of establishing rail links. Of course, joint statement again reiterates enduring friendship. So symbolisms, personal and informal parts of this engagement is something that helps us understand the kind of personal investments that Prime Minister
Absolutely,
Modi has made
absolutely.
in relationship with Bhutan.
Very well put, Dr. Swaran Singh there. Let me turn once again to Mr. Kinle Dorji. Kinle, you know, during that address, after receiving the award, Prime Minister Modi emphasized, they said that there has been strong connect between the two countries at two levels. One, B2B, that is Bharat to Bhutan, and P2P, that is people to people. Now, my question to you, Mr. Kinle Dorji, is this. Do you think the people to people contact, some institutionalized mechanism needs to be built? Although we have roads going in and out of Bhutan through Assam and other places, West Bengal and so on, but I think the people to people contact needs to be enhanced. I think there is scope for, you know, cultural exchanges, scope for people to people contact, scope for scholars coming and going. Do you agree with that? I think we can do much more.
Yes, definitely, Wasbir. You know, when we look at the visuals, what I have learned over the years and watching India-Bhutan relations is that, you know, our leaders, our kings have always said that you don't take friendship for granted. You have to make the effort. And that's where you see these exchanges, like Prime Minister Modi's visit, like His Majesty the King's and the Prime Minister of Bhutan's visits to India. We are keeping in touch. And now to go to P2P, for example, when you talk about the people to people, yes, I think what we do need is better connectivity. You know, we have the one road from Phinseling to Thimphu, look what it did for Bhutan and what it did for bilateral relations.
Yes.
And now we're talking about rail, road, river connectivity, air connectivity. You know, I think it's very important. We are heading in the right direction. We can see. And, you know, I think what is happening really is that, you know, these plans, these policies, these promises are becoming reality.
Right.
I was there in Delhi when, you know, Bhutan and India signed 2005 when we signed agreement to have 5 railway links. It's taken a number of years, and now we see it happening. But now I see this as a new era of action.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then
yes, Kinle.
with connectivity, besides transport connectivity, you know, the internet connectivity. Now we've also been talking about the third internet gateway and all that. I think we need to really, you know, translate our words into action to
Absolutely
enable all these
Correct.
promises, these
Correct.
relationships.
Absolutely. Dasho Wangda, you see, you are sitting in Gelefu, and Gelefu is a global headline these days because of His Majesty's visionary project of this mindfulness city. And Gelefu is located just 5.5 hours drive from where I am sitting in Guwahati, just less than 6 hours to Gelefu from here. And from Kokrajhar, which is in western Assam, the railway line is just 57 kilometers. And from the adjoining district of Chirang, Dasho Wangda, it is just about 30 to 40 kilometers. Now, is this mindfulness city going to be a game changer in connectivity and India-Bhutan relations? Because, you know, you have been the vice president of this Bhutan-India Friendship Association. You know so many people, you know all the right people in Northeast India and outside. Now, question is, do you think this mindfulness city has the potential to be a game changer in India-Bhutan relations? Because lot of top Indian business leaders whom His Majesty has also met in November are already thinking to the best of our knowledge of investing in the mindfulness city.
Well, I would like to make a comment in this way, that it is a very, very good idea. It is a wonderful idea, and Bhutan, and particularly the present king, has come out with this new vision of development next to India, next to Assam, where our neighborhood begins. However, Wasbir, let me take you to another issue. Now, I will really talk the subject that is very close to my heart. We should not take Indo-Bhutan relation for granted. The time has come. Now we have to do in spirit and in every nice way. How I like to tell you is Bhutan has changed. India has changed. India has become very rich. So has China has become very, very rich, second powerful. Now, who does Bhutan do most of the trading with? The Bhutan does most of the trading with India. Our 100% trading is with India. Now, what I wanted to tell you and through you to the viewers of India, that the thing of the day of Indo-Bhutan relation today is the trade and commerce and the economic activities, of which this Galefu initiative is one of the main backbone that His Majesty the King thought may develop in a manner that we wish. What I'm trying to tell you is the trade means every trade of Bhutan is with Assam and West Bengal. Now, I have told when I was in Guwahati to all the secretaries, please, India is a wonderful friend of Bhutan. I define Indian, the more you dig in the river bed, the more water you find. The more you dig water in the river, the more you see mud you find. That is India. The more you find, the more you dig, more water you find. Is India. We love you. You see, because the Lord Buddha was born in India. Mahatma Gandhi was born in India. And therefore, Bhutanese truly love, and you do not believe how popular and how much loved Indians are in Bhutan. However, now we don't have to be living in the past. About the trade and commerce, we had to change our attitude. Now, instead of we controlling the situation is trying to control us. What I'm trying to say is we have changed. Say, for instance, Bhutanese are producing thousands and thousands of tons of suparis. Bhutanese are producing thousands and thousands of tons of potatoes. So is ginger. Bhutanese never produced like that. And today, where do we sell this? So we have to sell all this to India. Now, not that we are not doing badly with India, we're doing extremely well. However, we have to see how the road conditions in Assam side, how the road conditions in West Bengal side.
That is your point. Your point is noted, Dasho. That is what the Prime Minister also said, that more efforts will be taken for improving the road connectivity. That is a point which our Prime Minister, even during this visit, has underscored. You have a point, that point very well taken, and I think the Government of India has also taken note of this and reinforced the fact that roads needs to be improved. I'll have to go for a very quick break before I come to my Indian panelists, but a very quick comment from Tenzing Lamsang. Tenzing Lamsang, as Daso Wangda said, Bhutan is sandwiched between two big Asian neighbors, India, with whom it has a traditional bond of friendship, and China. And obviously, China's expansionist designs are well known by the international community. So, do you think Bhutan is a little bit in a complicated kind of a situation, or do you think Bhutanese are absolutely clear as to what they need to do?
Well, as I recently wrote, I think first, to answer your question in the first part of your question, Bhutan has, we are like a soft egg between two hard rocks, in terms of a geopolitical scenario, or rather the dragon and the elephant, and we are in between. So, as a small country, that's our geopolitical situation, not very different from Nepal. But I think in terms of foreign policy, we are absolutely as crystal clear as the Himalayan waters that I think India is the cornerstone of Bhutan's foreign policy. And there's no doubt about that at any level in Bhutanese governance or society. So I think there, India need not worry, is what I can say.
Absolutely. Very clear-cut statement coming from Mr. Tenzing Lamsang there. India is the cornerstone of Bhutan's foreign policy at whatever level, whether it is the government level or at the level of the society. I'll go for a short break. When I come back, I will go to Dr. Swaran Singh and General Kulkarni. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Welcome back to this special India-Bhutan debate. Let me go to Dr. Swaran Singh. Dr. Swaran Singh, Dasho Wangda, in passing, he made a comment that India-Bhutan relations should not be taken for granted. Yes, it is true that our bond is strengthening. As Mr. Tending Lamsang said, that cornerstone of Bhutan, whether it is the society or the government, is India. And there is nothing to worry about that aspect. But still, what are some of the other things you think India can perhaps do in Bhutan? Okay, India is providing assistance in the field of healthcare, that big hospital that has been inaugurated recently by, during this visit by Prime Minister Modi and the Bhutanese Prime Minister. And of course, the enhancement of the 13th plan allocation, doubling up and providing scholarships to Bhutanese students, and possible India's assistance, whether from the private sector or the government, in the Mindfulness City project in Gelefo. Apart from that, is there a gap, you think, that we need to fill?
I think very clearly, Basveer, India in its own foreign policy keeps now underlining need to recalibrate India's own foreign policy with its major partners. United States, Germany, Britain, Japan. India asserts that India is no longer the same as India was 10 years, 15 years before. Likewise, the global connectivity is growing exponentially. And there is no denying the fact that Bhutan will develop and expand engagement with all other stakeholders, other partners around the world. And third and most important, of course, is China. As he underlined, China is the second largest economy and has expanded its engagement with most of the countries around the world, including in India's periphery in South Asia. How does India respond to that? India has to also begin to recalibrate. India talks of India's neighborhood first. Look at Bhutan's neighborhood. Obviously, West Bengal, Assam will come first, and roads, rail, connectivity, energy grid, BBIN, which is the frame, which is where Bhutan will look at its own neighborhood. So need to recalibrate is absolutely understood on Indian part, both with its immediate neighbors, but also in its engagement with bigger countries like United States or Japan or other countries. So there is no denying. So if you notice Indian Foreign Minister repeatedly underlining need to recalibrate, recast relationship with India's neighborhood, he underlines that, of course, China is a challenge and we have to also deepen and expand our economic cooperation, which is where you mentioned in the 13th five-year plan, India has doubled its contribution from 5 to 10,000 rupees and 10,000 crore rupees in that sense. But more important, I think, as he also repeatedly, Foreign Minister says, need to assure our neighbors that we definitely want to put that relationship in a template of sovereign equality. And that sense of particularly India's smaller neighbors need to be addressed because they invariably see India as, we heard repeatedly, China and in India being large countries and smaller Himalayan states feel sandwiched sometimes. So that sentiment has to be understood, and that is where you see this focus on personal and informal relationship that Prime Minister seeks to make, cultural connect that he wants to bring in and not just treat it as a political relationship, is clearly understood on India's side that we need to also recalibrate, recast how India engages with some of India's immediate neighborhood in Himalayan, Himalayan, whether it is Nepal or Bhutan. And I think it is clearly that understanding which shows the enormous warmth that Indian Prime Minister received during his visit to Bhutan. And you mentioned of several firsts. They are indication that Bhutan understands how India is recasting that relationship to ensure that all the concerns of
Absolutely.
Bhutan are met, and the development of partnership is built on solid grounds in that sense.
Right. Let me turn to General Kulkarni, and I'll take a response from my Bhutanese guests. General Kulkarni, in April last year, the Bhutanese Prime Minister, the then Bhutanese Prime Minister, Mr. Lote Tshering, he gave an interview to a Belgian newspaper, where on Doklam, he is quoted as saying, the Belgian newspaper has quoted the Bhutanese Prime Minister as saying that Doklam is a junction point between India, China, and Bhutan. It is not up to Bhutan alone to fix the problem. There are three of us. There is no big or small country. All three are equal countries, each counting for 1/3. Now, if Bhutanese Prime Minister Bhutanese Prime Minister had been quoted correctly by this Belgian newspaper, he made it very clear that yes, Bhutan is negotiating a boundary dispute with China, fine, but it is at the try point. And as we know, there are two try points in that 477-kilometer long border between Bhutan and China. There are two try points between India, Bhutan, and China. And this comment was over Doklam, which was the scene of a long standoff in 2017, as you know. How do you look at this statement? That means the Bhutanese definitely see, if I am not using the word role, they are definitely keeping India informed about these developments.
Wasbir, definitely the relationship between the two countries, they do keep informed. Like I said, China does not have a diplomatic relations, but Bhutan is at 25 rounds of talks on the border aspect. And
Yes.
that China has been insisting again and again that they be allowed to establish a diplomatic mission at Thimphu. Having said that, India has been constantly ensuring that the relationship, if you were to go today to Bhutan, the roads constructed by the border roads, the other infrastructure which has come up, you see the health and education over there, you see the per capita income in that entire region, you can see the gross national happiness, the women empowerment, the number of women driving cars in Bhutan and in Thimphu that I've seen, I haven't seen anywhere in the Northeast either. So in that context, I find that Bhutan is no longer a least developed country. And even UN has come on board to say it is one among the higher growing countries in the region. Bhutan has a wonderful relationship with India. However, yes, the Bhutanese Prime Minister, much that I did meet some of them when I was in Bhutan, all of them are studied in Hindu College, Kirorimal, St. Stephen's, and all the Delhi universities. And all of them speak decent Hindi and fantastic English. So that's not a real problem. So communication is not a problem with them. The inclination having gone this, there were a little bit of this thing as to why did they suddenly that little change. However, there's no denying the fact that much that we would have said the tri-junction of what we call at Batangla and what they call at Gitchapen is a different issue. But that is all resolvable when we talk and discuss. The Doklam issue, where there was a 73-day standoff which took place between India and China, but the way the Chinese have gone about constructing, the way the disputes are there, and the Chinese wanting to swap the Doklam area with the other two areas, and yet another in 2020, the Chinese come up with yet another disputable area
Right.
adjoining the Tawang region. So you find, and there is a lot of personal-to-personal contact. I was just there in Tawang some time back, and they have a 4-day at that Goklam in Jibitang sector of Tawang, where lots of Bhutanese come there, at the Doklam Chotan over there, at the Gorsam Chotan over there, and
Right.
there's so much of interaction. So
Yes.
there is a lot happening. Yes, more needs to be done. Hydropower.
Okay.
I would tell you the amount of hydropower generation, much that we would have wanting it far more, but yes, the electricity is being exported to India, Bangladesh. So there is Chinese have also now come in construction of infrastructure, road, idle. So we really now need to ensure, and that since you said very well that from 5,000 crores to 10,000 crores for the 13th five-year plan is indicative that the relationship will, of course, what matters is the buck. We have to ensure that the relationship is their traditional relationship is further cemented by ensuring the aspirations the Bhutanese are.
Aspiration. That is a very
Wasbir.
important point, General, you have made. Let me turn to Mr. Kinle Dorji once again. Economy. The General, Kinle, the General said that Bhutan is no longer a least developed country, but the COVID pandemic has had a serious impact on Bhutan's economy. How much is that a concern for you, and do you expect anything specific from the international community, particularly India, to come up with assistance? Because there are media reports which you will confirm whether it is true or not, that there are several hundreds or several thousand young Bhutanese have left, particularly to Australia, in search of jobs. Now, in a country that has a population of about 800,000, are you concerned? What steps are you taking, is your government taking to resolve this issue, if at all?
Yes, thanks. I think it's really from what I sense from your question is really that all these developments, we're connecting it to the economy, and I think that's right. After post-COVID, I think the whole world was battered.
Yes.
And Bhutan had these two very serious problems, concerns: the economy and people, out migration of Bhutanese people, especially the youth. So I think what is happening though, and we talk about is India, how's India responding? Now for Bhutan, the way I see it, the Bhutan having now entered a new era, new chapter of development, which is transforming into a new era. And I see India very much alongside that, the support. And we talk about Gelifu. Gelifu is a very important part of this transformation taking place. And India's commitment to Gelifu, I mean, that is very, very reassuring that a new concept like this, a very daring, very, interesting and exciting concept. And India picks it up immediately. Prime Minister Modi himself mentioned his support for it. Yeah. So Bhutan decides to make quite dramatic, daring change in that sense, and India is fully there. And like we were all saying that, yes, this is beyond Bhutan and India. I think I see Bhutan and India both, responding to the world, to a world very confidently, a world which in the past has been a developed world, and we've been the poor region. But although we may not all agree with this, but that's it. But Bhutan and India, it seems like now the sense is that, okay, we are together. We have this shared consciousness and agreement, and we're going to move forward together. And it's like looking at the future, and Gelifu has very strong implications on the economy, because of all the investments, international investments we are hoping for.
Right.
And the Bhutanese diaspora overseas, creating a Bhutan which will attract them back. We've seen how India has, in the past, all the IT people in Silicon Valley. And then now we know that many of them are back. So we know that if the conditions are right, Bhutanese will come back to Bhutan. And this is what's going on.
Absolutely. There are attempts to have a reverse migration of the Bhutanese diaspora back into Bhutan. That's what Mr. Kinle Dorji is indicating, he is basically saying. Now, Dasho Wangda, Gelifu is going to emerge as a unique city with a unique vision of the king. It is going to keep intact the Bhutan's cultural and traditional heritage, as traditions intact, yet it is going to be a modern city, be built by global architects. Now the question is, and there will be a lot of, the hospitality industry is going to grow. There will be already an international airport, and there will be rail link from Assam, and the road links will be improved. So that can be one of the hubs. And as far as I know, the area which you have in and around Gelifu, the size will be bigger than Singapore. That is what I have read somewhere. Now the question to you, Dasho Wangda, right near Gelifu is the city of Guwahati. Now Guwahati is also a fast growing city with fast becoming a healthcare and an education hub. There are about 7 to 8 universities in Guwahati already. There are about 8 to 10 hospitals with major Indian hospital chains have put up hospitals here. Do you see prospects of these two cities flourishing together?
Well, you see, what I would like to make a comment on this is the mindfulness city, mindfulness Gelfu, mindfulness city is very, very eco-friendly.
Yes.
Gelfu will be not in competition with any cities or any town of India. But what His Majesty the King of Bhutan is wishing is to convert this Gelfu into something very, very eco-friendly town. I mean, we may say city. I am informed that we will have no buildings more than 4 stories. We will have more parks, we will have more forest, we will have more lakes than buildings. Yes, there will be lots of high-end hospitality, health, tourism. As we go by, we will see how it will develop into. But the fact of the matter is that we want to make it 100% eco-friendly. It will not be like any other city in the world. Therefore, by making these differences, making it very different town, different city, I feel that we will try to have our own unique, our own special kind of a city. So that is what we are looking at the moment. Though in 2 years' time, I am told that we will have begun the construction of international airport. In another 2 years' time, we hope to have the railway link with India, which is 2,450 crores. The international airport of Bhutan, Gelfu, may be costing about 500 crores to 2,000 crores. Then we have an I river next to Gelfu. We have I river, which flows by Bongaigaon of Assam, and we will also have a very long bridge over that I river. So these are the only 3 major constructions that Gelfu will have. Other than these 3, we will always continue with our uniqueness of eco-friendly town.
Right. One of my observation, Mr. Tenzing Lamsang, is that we are so close to each other. Northeast India and Bhutan are so close to each other, yet we hardly find any cultural exchanges between the two people or the two countries. The dance performances are unique to Bhutan. Traditional, every region has its unique dances, their unique weaves. There's hardly any organized exchange of artists, performers, or even people-to-people relations are not at a very organized level. And tourism, there is hardly any organized activity between Northeast India and Bhutan. Do you agree with this? What can be done?
Well, I can respond to this by saying that recently during Prime Minister Dashot Srintopke's first foreign visit to India, he not only met, of course, Prime Minister Modi and the other ministers in the Indian government, but for the first time, a Bhutanese Prime Minister visiting India had 3 sessions with India's tourism sector, one in
Yes.
Delhi, one in Mumbai, and apart from that, a third session with the India's business community. And the main message there was Indians are welcome in Bhutan. Please come to Bhutan. We want more Indians in Bhutan as tourists, as investors. So I think the people-to-people connectivity and cultural exchange is very important, and I think it is a softer aspects which lubricates the relationship as a whole. If I can just go back to an earlier point on Gelfu, and this is where Gelfu comes in to enhance people-to-people ties, because so far the relationship between Bhutan and India is very good and it will continue to be good. But Gelfu project is an opportunity for the government of India and India's private sector and others to invest in the future of the relationship. Why I say this is because you talked of the migration to Australia. The people migrating to Australia are Generation Z, who are young college graduates. and who see a brighter future abroad because they are more exposed to the world, and it's a natural thing, so the Gen Z are not patient and not willing to wait around and get a government job and settle down. So the Gelefo City Mindfulness City project is primarily aimed at Gen Z, where we can get in high quality investments, high quality jobs, and it's an investment in the future of our economy. And I see as a future is a big opportunity for Indian government as well as the private sector to come in and invest in the future of Bhutan. It will benefit Assam in a huge way. There'll be a huge amount of let's say, huge amount of manpower that we'll need, woman power, manpower in
Yeah.
the Gelefo city. I can see a lot of them coming from Assam as well. And I think it's a way to enhance interaction between the two countries.
Absolutely. Let us hope it emerges to be that. Let me go to Dr. Swaran Singh. Dr. Swaran Singh, basically, what we are seeing is, okay, there are a lot of high-level contacts between the government leaders of the two countries. Now, the private sector has a big role, and this time round, when His Majesty the King visited Mumbai, he met the who's who of Indian trade and industry, whether it is Mukesh Ambani, whether it is the Birlas, whether it is the Tatas, whether it is the Oberois, and so on. He met the who's who of the Indian trade and industry in a span of just 2 days in Mumbai. Now, do you think the private sector, with the backing of the Indian government, can also play a big role in, as you said, cementing the India-Bhutan relations and taking it to a new high? At the end of the day, trade and commerce is one of the building blocks of any relationship.
In India, we often have much more talk and media headlines about FDI inflows into India. But we also understand in the last 2 decades, India has also emerged in terms of an investing country. We have a lot of private business investors
Yeah.
going around the world. And in that sense, when it comes to Bhutan, Bhutan may have several lessons for India in terms of sustainable development. So if you look at the kind of agreements that we signed during Prime Minister Modi's visit last week, it included areas and sectors like digital connectivity, even space sector. So
Yeah.
it's not that the frontiers of technology partnerships are not happening, but how to ensure at the same time that the rampant urbanization is not allowed is something which is a lesson which Bhutan can give it to the world and to India. In that sense, the focus on Gallipo being a mindfulness city or the National Happiness Index. So Indian investments into Bhutan, I think, will benefit in terms of learning from novel experiments that Bhutanese king and Bhutanese leadership has been doing in Bhutan in terms of
Right.
what kind of development to focus on, particularly the development that should be sustainable in that sense. So if you
Absolutely.
look at, we are also having very rapid development in India's northeast, which is neighborhood of Bhutan, but can we also learn from Bhutan in terms of partnership partners in investing from Indian side? And of
Absolutely.
course, a lot of major
Absolutely.
state-to-state investments are also happening.
Right.
But business, I think, is also taking increasing interest now in Bhutan.
Right. I'm completely running out of time. General Kulkarni, so positive days ahead. Are you optimistic?
100%. There's no denying the fact. There's so much that Bhutan and India can contribute towards peace and tranquility. There's not even the mindfulness. You have yoga, you have spas, you have rest, recreation. It's a totally different ball game altogether. Even the aspect of tourism, the high-end tourism, the Bhutanese, because of the high forest cover and ensuring that economy and the ecosystems are well maintained, all of it is in control with a view to ensure that Bhutan does not lose its tradition, does not lose its culture. At the same time, is being
Right.
exposed to the world. And slowly, you have Japanese tourists coming there, you have the Chinese tourists coming there, the Indian
Right.
tourists in flock. There's a lot. And I think we wish Bhutan and India grow together and live together. And the gross national happiness is something that we really need to emulate from Bhutan.
Absolutely. As they say, one can change your friends, but you cannot change your neighbors. And luckily for India and Bhutan, we have two good neighbors, and that is the positive between these two countries. The traditional bond of friendship needs to be further cemented. It's already getting cemented with each passing day. And the Prime Minister Modi's visit during the last 2 days, last Friday and Saturday, have contributed a lot, absolutely, in further consolidating the ties between the two countries, and a lot of firsts in that visit, as I said. And we can only, from here on, we can hope that it will go further. Yes, Tanjing, last word to you.
Wasbir,
10 seconds.
just last few words from me. I must congratulate you as being the first Indian journalist who's hosted so many Bhutanese panelists. And I think this is a way to improve people to people and cultural and so many other ties. Because when you understand the Bhutanese perspective, I think understanding will go. And I congratulate you for
Thank
being
you.
the first Indian journalist
Thank
to
you,
hold,
thank you,
to get the other
Tanjing.
side.
Thank you so much. And this is just the beginning. And I hope, I assure you publicly today, that we will continue to have this India-Bhutan dialogue, and your presence and presence of many more Bhutanese guests on our channel will be able to, it will be our humble contribution to furthering India-Bhutan ties. And I want Dasho Wangda to visit our channel once again. And on that note, I invite all of you to come to Assam and visit our channel, that is Northeast Live. Kinle Dorji, Daso Tering Wangda, Tenzing Lamsang, Lieutenant General Kulkarni, Dr. Suran Singh. Thank you very much indeed for being on the show, and the viewers for watching the program. Good night and goodbye.